In this episode, we are going to be discussing what you have to lose by waiting to start taking care of yourself, to implement a health and fitness protocol, to be making better decisions. But first, new listeners, we have a 3-episode rule on this podcast. If you are still listening beyond 3 episodes, you're probably getting some value from what we're talking about. So our only ask is that you leave us a quick 5-star review. If you want to leave a little blurb on there as well, greatly appreciated. Share us on social media, tag us, start the conversations over there. We put this stuff out as a free resource. So if it's helping you in any way, it can probably help somebody else in a very similar way. So be a part of the community.
Some people were asking how to do that. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, just to go to our show, click shows, go to Here to Evolve. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you should see there's a place to see the reviews and leave a review. So if you just click the stars, and then it should prompt you if you want to write something, you can. On Spotify, I don't think you can write anything. You can just rate it there.
Share it, click the share
button.
And
then share it on social media. Tag us if you do so we can see it too.
Yeah, with Apple, I think you just have to be on the page, not the episode page, but the show page.
And if you're on YouTube,
hey,
hello. You can just drop a comment and let us know that you're watching over on YouTube.
Like, subscribe, drop a comment, questions in the comments. We'll start paying attention to those. So diving right in. And if you guys are on the daily email list, this is going to be part of that. So daily tips and insights. We don't spam you with a bunch of sales. We just, again, similar to this podcast, similar to social media content. It's basically like an expert article delivered to your inbox. You can do it daily. We have a weekly one as well.
They're short. They're not super long.
No, just telling a quick story, giving you quick insight, tips, things you can utilize for that day, mindset hacks, things along those lines. But back to today's episode. And this is something I have certainly struggled with, but basically kicking the can down the road, understanding there are things that you're doing or not doing that are not conducive to optimal health, to optimal wellness, to optimal, fitness. Quick backstory for those who have been listening to the past couple episodes. You probably heard a brief rundown on my journey with Barrett's esophagus, how that all started, and I take full responsibility, but was the way I took care of myself from age 18 to 21, probably. Not taking advantage of sleep. I'd be drinking very heavily. I was a very heavy drinker. I could drink in my quote unquote drinking prime. We had a house in college. I could drink an entire handle myself. If I got a 30 rack, I told myself I wasn't drunk. I needed more. So it'd be a 30 plus sharing a bottle of vodka with somebody. What I'm alluding to is there were warning signs, and I literally told myself, I'll worry about it later. I'm still too young. It's not going to be a problem. Things will get better. I was taking unregulated supplements, drinking heavily, going to work or going to the gym on 3 hours of sleep, sometimes still drunk, just putting terrible things into my body and not allowing myself to recover, on top of, literally killing myself. And I would have little palpitations or days where I didn't feel great, where I knew it wasn't just I'm off, I'm hungover, I need to sleep. Like something was wrong and it was manifesting. And the warning signs got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I just said, hey, I'll deal with it later. It's not an issue now. I'm fine. I'm young.
And I think there may be some people out there, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I feel like there are some people who don't think that they have warning signs, or feel like
they're just not paying attention to them, or they're oblivious.
Even if you don't have any that are jumping out at you now, they may come. They likely will come if you don't change your lifestyle starting now. So don't let that mindset of if nothing's happening now, I'm good. You are okay right now, maybe, but you may be missing it, or it's going to hit you in the face fairly soon.
The things we're doing now set us up for the future. But even in the here and now, little things are starting to compile based on your decisions. It's that 5 pounds you gained last year. And I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you gained 5 pounds, let's worry about the scale. Hear me out. It's the 5 pounds you gained last year that turned into the 10 pounds you gained this year. That turned into 10 to 12 to 15 pounds you gained the following year, or will gain the following year. All of a sudden, it's, oh my gosh, how did I just gain 35 pounds, 40 pounds? It didn't happen overnight. You saw that slowly change, and you didn't do anything to combat that. You didn't change your lifestyle. You didn't prioritize sleep. He didn't start working out.
Or you didn't see it until you saw it, and it felt like it happened overnight sometimes.
Sometimes. Not usually, though. Usually you have to tell. You get out of the shower, you don't like how you look. You wake up in the morning, you don't like how you feel. Those are the first warning signs. Mine were screaming red flags. Hey, you better stop. You better start doing things that are going to help you heal and thrive. I didn't care. I was young. Didn't matter. I was literally in my teens into my early 20s. Got the rest of my life to worry about this. But you don't. You really don't. And by the time something manifests, it's already, I don't want to say too late, but you're behind the 8 ball. By the time something manifests, you now have to work doubly as hard to combat that and to stimulate healing and to or combat whatever that issue was. So it's not the sexy approach of like, hey, I'm doing this so I can hang out with my grandkids and run around and travel and go hiking and do all these fun things with my grandkids when I'm 25 years old, when I'm 30 years old, when I'm 40 years old. You're trying to survive today. So those things don't seem as important and it's not as sexy. The problem is if you're waiting to that point, especially by the time you're a grandparent, you're probably not fixing that. If you work really hard, you certainly can, but most of you will mail it in. If you mailed it in your whole life, you're not going to start picking it up when you're a grandparent.
To put a positive spin on this, if you're listening to this right now, in this very moment, you are the youngest that you will ever be. So you can choose to take action now, or you can continue to say, I'm going to wait until insert whatever the until is here. But it's only going to get harder if you continue to wait. So why not take action at your youngest point right this very moment?
It's the power of inertia. A body in motion stays in motion. If you have some momentum, use that momentum and capitalize on it so it stays easy. These don't have to be big, overwhelming, life-overhauling things.
And I think that's the problem. People think it has to be. People still think it has to be this huge lifestyle change, or they look at what we're doing right now, or they look at whatever your favorite influencer is doing and posting their day in the life, or what they eat in a day, or their weekend or their week of training. And you look at that and you think that you have to jump there tomorrow. They didn't jump there in one day. So you can't compare your right now to that person's current state because you're in completely different phases of life. But I guarantee you when we first started, we were making those smaller shifts over time to get to where we are today.
Or just comparing yourself directly to them. The way that they look is so far out. Why should I even try? Why should I even bother? I can't get to that point. It's never going to happen. I'm not going to have a superhero body.
Those are fixed mindsets. Those are fixed mindsets that are holding you back. Because if you say never, if you truly think that you're never going to do something, or you believe that you cannot do something, which we just talked about in, what was that, last week's episode?
Well,
the belief.
It'll be 2 weeks at this point.
So go back and listen to that one if you need a little pep talk there. But you have to, the first step is believing that you have the ability to achieve whatever you set out to achieve. And I think about, like, I have people that I look up to also who are doing incredible things, like, you know, running marathons, lifting all the things, like doing things that I strive to do. And I look at them and I don't get frustrated that I'm not there yet. It almost just like lights a fire under my butt. So you have to use comparison in a positive way. I don't think comparing yourself inherently has to be a bad thing, but I think a lot of people don't do it in a way that is productive, if that makes sense.
I will also say that if you are following people who have a different lifestyle and you find that you are in that negative comparison mindset of, oh, look at what they're doing, look what I'm doing, you know, look how they look how I look, you can remove them. You can filter out who you're taking in information from, and not to say it's bad information, but you can remove those negative obstacles from your life. It's just easing the friction. I unfollowed a bunch of people who are great people, but who happen to be on PEDs because I was in that push to, okay, do I want to get on TRT because my biofeedback is shitty? Or can I do natural things that aren't as drastic? Do I want to force peptides right now? Or can I do certain things that are going to hold, you know, the need for that a little bit further? So I'm not relying on these things for the rest of my life right now. And the push to always, oh, let's just do it was, well, I can gain significantly more muscle. I can up my TRT dosage and actually look like a superhero because these guys look so great. And they're nice people, and they're doing a lot of great things, and they're spreading great messages. But because of that, I'm like, well, let me remove that from my lens, so this isn't affecting the decisions that I'm making about my lifestyle, my health, my body. And that's what I did. I had to unfollow a handful of people who take a significant amount of PEDs because it was skewing my perspective as far as how I wanted to look and feel and perform.
Yeah, I think you have to, only you can determine if something or someone is positively or negatively impacting you, but you also have to understand that there's going to be different people that are going to influence you in different ways through different seasons of life. So like when I was pregnant, I tended to follow a lot of other pregnant women who were doing the things that I wanted to do and living how I wanted to live. And now I'm not following people who are doing that. Not to say that I'm not in the same place as them, but like as I go through different seasons, I have different people and things that inspire me too. So I think, constantly auditing who you're following, what information you're taking in is also super important, because it has to make sense for what's going to be productive or not be so productive when it comes to comparison.
And to that point too, you can adjust that based on your season of life. If you're in a season of life where you want to pick up a new activity or a new hobby or homesteading or farm, whatever it is, and you find these people and you get some ideas, you get inspired, you learn little bits and pieces. That's the beauty of the day and age we live in, the information age, the social media age, is information is so easily accessible. Now you do have to filter for who's providing quality information and who is, throwing out misinformation and things.
You have to make sure you're not just taking in information. We talk about this all the time.
Apply it.
You have to apply it. You can't just be sitting there scrolling, taking everything in, and then not doing anything with it. That's not helping you either. So, you have to filter your time spent taking in and make sure that your action is equal or greater than that.
And that is a good segue back into what we're talking about today. So rather than just hearing this episode, rather than just following along on social media, what are you actually applying? What are you taking notes on? What are you writing down saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do today? There should be something in 95% of these episodes that you can start doing today if you're not already doing them. So if you're already doing them, it's reassurance that we want to continue doing those things, those type of things. We like to give you blueprints rather than specific protocols and plans so you can build around your lifestyle in which you can maintain for the rest of your life. So what can you take today to start doing things to have a positive impact on your life with everything that you consume? If you are a mindless scroller, be mindful of what you're scrolling through and what you can pull from. Is it entertainment? Are you just watching these things to laugh? Are there certain accounts you're following, different podcasts you're listening to, videos you're watching to improve your life in a certain aspect? I am a serial information seeker. I've made it a goal to up my reading, so I'm reading a book per week. Plan on sustaining that through the year. But I'm not just reading chapters mindlessly. Same thing as scrolling. I'm not scrolling mindlessly. I'm not reading these chapters and just trying to get to the next book. After each chapter, okay, what can I put into plan? What am I learning? What can I apply to my business?
And that might be something like where if you struggle with that, it's good to either, take 5 minutes at the end of the day or maybe at the start of the day and ask yourself, what did I learn from this book that I read last night? Or what did I learn today from everything that I took in? What are 3 things I can take away from that? So get in the habit of actually writing it down can be really helpful. That is often, I think there's science backing the fact that when we actually write something, we retain the information much better than typing or just reading something. So take notes, take actual notes on whatever you listened to or read. It can help tremendously actually, put that information into action.
And if you are someone who just prefers to type and get stuff down and create these plans, like we have the Notion app on our computers where you can create a bunch of different pages and notes within those pages.
Or just your notes app is fine.
Or just your notes app.
Yeah.
But I like to organize it by section so they're completely divided and then create.
Notion is like the notes app on steroids. It's
you can create headers and then checklists and to-dos and different sections and subsections and headings and subheadings. It's a little
prettier.
So for each project that I dive into, and if I'm applying a book to that project, I'll kind of subdivide based on those things, but that gives you something to reference back. I'm not just trying to remember, okay, what did I learn from that book that I read 3 weeks ago or 4 months ago? I can jump in to that project. Those are the notes I took from that book, and here are the things that I'm working to apply. So that's the process of the application. But as far as taking control of your health now, obviously the red flags right now are going to be how you feel, how you look, how you're performing, ability to retain information. But longer term, again, once we break through that, we let those things slide, and then we put on 20 pounds and we became insulin resistant, and then that transitions into diabetes, or, insert XYZ, fill in the blank here. Those are the bigger picture issues. We're not here to fearmonger, but those are the things that get compounded, those smaller issues, into those bigger issues. So what do we control? The things we put in our mouths, the things we consume, not just what we're putting in our mouths, but also the things that we're watching, we're listening to, we're reading. How often are we moving our bodies? How often are we training, resistance training, doing cardio, elevating our heart rate?
I read something today about strength training, a fun fact. I think it was any amount of strength training has shown, let me pull it up because I just saw it this morning. It was a good fun fact. Performing any amount of weight training reduces your mortality risk. Any amount. So not even like going by ACSM 2 times per week standard of like whatever they recommend for sets and reps. If you do any kind of strength training, you reduce your all-cause mortality risk, which is incredible. So if you feel hung up on the fact that, you have to do things this way to get the full benefit, but you're not doing anything at all right now, just doing something is going to help you. So don't let that hold you back either, of doing things optimally, which yes, do we want to strive to get there over time? Sure. But if you're doing nothing right now and you're using that as an excuse, understand that there's still so many benefits to increasing from wherever you're at currently.
Now, to the person who says, I'm in my office 60 to 80 hours a week, I literally have no free time, I have nothing at home to work out with. Move your body throughout the day. Do laps around your office. I don't care if you're in a cubicle, walk back and forth to the wall and back as you're on a call or as you're brainstorming or thinking, or every 10 minutes, every hour, just go back and forth a few times to stimulate blood flow. Your boss will thank you because you're going to be more productive. You're going to be more creative. Your work is going to be more effective. But then when you go home or at your desk, do some air squats, do some push-ups. If you are so tired and weak and you're very overweight and you can't do real push-ups, do push-ups on your desk, do push-ups on your table. Do some walking lunges.
Go back and listen to our exercise snacks podcast from 3 or 4 ago.
The point being, if you're doing nothing, those are things that are significantly better than nothing. And if you have 5 minutes, do it in 5 minutes. If you're home and let's say you are home with no equipment, but you're not working 60 to 80 hours a week, do a 20-minute bodyweight routine and then bump it up to 30, 40 minutes. Do some jumping jacks, go for a walk, and then go for a brisk walk, and then go for a run. Build those things up over time. It's just, you're feeding yourself nonsense if you think that you're in this helpless position. It's the victim mentality.
Example A from one of our clients last week, Sienna, I think, sent this over. Every week in our clients' weekly check-ins, one of the common questions that we put in there is give yourself 2 compliments or tell me something you're proud of that you accomplished this week, which is just a really nice way to help our clients like reflect and be proud of themselves and build that confidence over time. This client said, I was extremely proud that even with working 60 plus hours this week, I was still able to get in 3 lifts, and I've been consistent with keeping my steps increased. It is difficult a lot of the time, and sometimes I feel rushed, but at the same time, I'm enjoying it. So proof in the pudding right there that you make time for the things that you want to make time for. Is that the right? I don't have good words today. But this is just one example of what our clients are able to achieve when we help them kind of shift their expectations a little bit. And this client was not able to do that a few months ago, and she's actually enjoying it now, and even with working 60 plus hours per week. So, I think it's easy to look at us sometimes, like me and you, who I think many people assume like we work from home, we have a lot more flexibility. It's easier, quote unquote, for us to just go out to the gym, which yes, I will say in some cases, sure, it is easier, but look at our clients. Our clients come from every possible scenario that you could think of, And it's our job to help them figure out how to make it work. So there is no one right way. You don't have to do things the way that we do them. We don't expect you to do things the way that we do them. But to say that I can't do something because someone else has it easier or it's easier for them is just another excuse.
Well, listen, we run 2 businesses. There are days where I am on meetings the vast majority of the day, on top of juggling our kids who don't go to daycare. Kai has a half day of school during the week. Cora is here all day. So there was a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks straight where I was getting my workouts done in 25 minutes. I was training 4 or 5 days a week, 6 exercises, and I turned my straight sets into supersets or trisets. I cut back rest time to 30 to 60 seconds. Was that optimal? No, but I got it done. It still felt good, and my mental health was saved by the fact that I got that in. So if I was doing an upper body day, for example, my chest, back, and shoulder exercises were a triset. Do I want to bench and then do pull-ups and then do a shoulder press or upright row? Is that optimal for strength performance and progressive overload? It sounds shitty, because it is shitty. But I felt good when I was done. I wasn't hitting PRs, but I got a great pump and I felt good. And then I'm supersetting bis, tris, and either rear delts or traps. So another thing. And then finishing up with some kettlebell work or some core work. 25 minutes, 3 sets for everything. So 6 exercises prior to core or whatever else. 18, 20 sets, then a little bit of whatever. So that got done in 25 minutes.
Yeah. And I think it's common to think that because we work in the fitness industry that like fitness is our job, but like if you followed us around all day, our job is on the computer or on the phone.
Sitting all day.
We have sedentary jobs as online health and fitness business owners, and we own a software company. So those 2 things literally mean we're on screens or sitting all day. Granted, we make our own schedule. We do have flexibility to an extent, but there are many days where it's just us in this little office on the side of our kitchen with screaming children on the other side of the wall and getting as much as we can get done in the time that we can get it done in.
Because that has been our priority, because we take care of ourselves, because we go to sleep on time, we don't go out drinking, we invest our money in things that improve our health versus
we go to bed at 8:30.
It's a sacrifice. All of this is a sacrifice. Now, you don't have to sacrifice to the extent that we sacrifice. There are different levels to it, but it's priorities. And if you're not where you're at, if you're not where you want to be, it's an excuse for you choosing not to make sacrifices that are actually going to improve your life. What we do is not the norm. Normal is not optimal. And we have chosen the path that we feel the best about. We sacrifice in the areas we are most comfortable sacrificing to feed the areas that we are prioritizing as the top priority to feed.
Coach Sienna posted something recently. I think it was a collab post on the SDE Evolution Instagram. But she said, we are always motivated to do something. It just might not be what you want to do. So like people say they're not always motivated to work out. They're motivated to scroll their phone, or they're motivated to watch something on TV. You are always motivated to do something. It just might not be aligned in the right way. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit. All of our coaches have gone through the health and mindset coaching certification, which kind of like dives deep into mindset work and just your thought process and how that connects to all of these other areas.
Behavior change.
But I just thought that was an interesting way to think about it, because I think a lot of people assume that most of the time, if you're not regularly working out or you're not able to be consistent, you're just not motivated. But the truth is that you are motivated. That's geared in the wrong direction.
So little things, guys. If you're doing nothing, just do something. If you're doing something and you're still not seeing the progress that you want, you got to up it, or you got to change the protocol. You got to find something that's giving you a better ROI. Something that's adding value. These things shouldn't feel like they're taking away value from every other area of your life. Talk about this all the time. Every protocol you implement should make everything else feel better. You're having more energy. You have more to give to others. It might take a little more time depending on where you're starting. It doesn't need to, but it might need to depending on where you're at. And then just putting the pieces together the right way. If you don't know where to put them, we have free guides. We have the app. We have one-on-one coaching, obviously. Or you just learn this shit on your own. Trial and error, but just, don't mail it in after 2 weeks. You assess after a period of about a month. If it's working, continue. If it's not, remove it. That's what I did for a decade to heal from Barrett's esophagus. It's a frustrating journey, but in the long run, as long as you don't mail it in, you see the fruits of your labor. So how long are you willing to go through that process? How long are you willing to fight and to learn and investigate? So it's either your time or your money you're putting into this. You're investing something to see progress. And again, when you feel okay right now, it doesn't sound like the sexiest thing to do, to think about 10 years from now, 20 years from now. But when you are aging, like, do you want to be 50 years old and achy and tired and struggling with the initial stages of cancer or pre-diabetes or diabetes? And then you don't have an enjoyable rest of your life. You're managing something very significant for the rest of your life. It's much in the same effect that catching cancer as soon as it starts or in the very early stages is much, much easier to treat. The survival rate is incredible. It's not so great once it gets to those later stages. It's the same process with taking care of your health overall before you even get to that point. It is so much easier to continue to have good health than it is to overcome bad health. And that's not to be, pessimistic if you are dealing with something right now. Again, I was dealing with something very significant. It took me a decade. I fixed it. We'll move forward. I'm just saying it's much harder. If I stayed healthy and took care of myself, it would have been much easier to continue to be healthy than if I hadn't had to take that journey. So little things like that. And side tangent, I did just see they are coming out with a lot more preventative screens. I forgot the name of the company. It started with a P. This is something I had actually, when I was really struggling after Barrett's, energy and everything, I actually wanted something like this to scan me from head to toe, or like even a brain scan. I'm like, do I have MS? Like the early stages of MS, like initial warning signs. And they're like, no, well, you know what? Insurance isn't going to cover something like that. Obviously you don't have it. There's nothing to indicate that you have it. Like you can't check that for preventative, which I thought was fucking ridiculous, because by the time you have something, it is 100 times more expensive. But they actually are coming out with affordable methods to do these scans. I forget the name. I'll find it. Started with a P. I think the closest one to us was Boston. But they have different levels. So they can do just upper body. They can do most of your body. And then they have like a whole body scan. The whole body scan took an hour. I think it was an hour MRI, $2,500, which is not terrible if you're doing that once a year, every other year, every 3 years. But it checked for like, I want to say 250 different things. Like it'll find early tumors, neurological disorders, cardiovascular things.
Imagine if everybody just got that. Like that was just included.
Yeah. And the ironic part is we would spend so much less on healthcare if we did that. Once a year, even if it was once a year, which is probably too much. You probably don't need it once a year, maybe at a certain point. But $2,500 a year, if everybody did that, yeah, it's a huge upfront cost. But how many people are dealing with comorbidities? What do you pay a year for diabetes? What do you pay a year for cancer? What do you pay a year for Alzheimer's, for dementia? It would absolutely $2,500 once a year. And maybe you split the cost. You pay half, they pay half.
They're never going to do that.
Then it's a no-brainer. No, they're not going to do that, because who's in bed with everybody else? I mean, who's making all the decisions? The pharmaceutical industry. They want you sick, fat, tired, lazy, stupid, relying on the system. Anybody who thinks otherwise, I'm looking at the camera now, wake the fuck up. Come on. Feel very strongly about that. So you guys know what to do. Write down 1 or 2 things from this. You don't have to track calories and macros. You can eat mindfully. Focus on intuitive eating, whatever stage you're at. You don't have to go to the gym every day. You don't have to go to the gym at all. Start making better decisions. That's it. That's the point of this podcast. Not just this episode, this entire podcast. Through awareness, we create change. That is our motto. That's why we ask you to share the episode. That's why we ask you to review it, because by leaving those good reviews, by sharing it, we are creating more awareness so we can create more change. We can help more people. We can change the fucking world. Take your steps. Don't just listen to this. Don't just hop on to the next podcast. Take the notes if you need to, but apply something today, tomorrow. Continue to build on it. Build your momentum. Change your damn life. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.